All right, guys, we are here with the one and only Olivia Martinez. No, I'm actually
Hello.
so excited because when I first thought of people I wanted to interview, I was like Olivia Martinez because I feel like you sent me a resume. I was like, whoa, this girl's done so much. Like I only seen like a little bit of it, but I'm like, wow, this girl's genius. I'm so excited to get into everything.
Thank you so
So
much.
my first question is, what was your first exposure to musical theater?
Okay, good question. My first exposure to musical theater, well, like I grew up with like a pretty
Mm,
musical family. Like no one like does musicals, but they were all like pretty open to the idea of musicals, which is kind of rare for Hispanic families because usually they're like, don't do that. But actually,
true.
actually,
I don't know.
I was like, how would you know? No, but my first musical that I ever saw was I was 5 years old, and I saw
Mhm.
the tour of Beauty and the Beast at Gamage,
Oh, and
and
that's coming back this
it is
season.
coming. It's like so
Oh,
full circle for
that
me.
is so full circle.
And I was 5 years old, and I watched it, and I vividly remember watching the only part of the musical I remember. There's like
Mm.
three parts. I remember Be Our Guest. I remember the Beast transformation, but the part that I remember the most is I remember watching the Beast sing "If I Can't Love Her," and I was like, "How do I get to be this guy? Like how?"
Oh, so you wanted to be the Beast.
So I guess in a way,
Guys, Olivia Martinez as the Beast. I honestly support
if
that.
somebody wants to cast me as the Beast, I will 1000% be down.
And you definitely could play that role. Like you could.
I think they need to make a gay Beauty and the Beast, and then I'll be the Beast.
Have you been in the predicament where you're like playing all the roles a lot? Like I could just be anything in this?
That was kind of me when I did Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, because you were at Lumière.
Yes,
And what were you
but
called
like
back for?
I was called back for Lumiere, Belle, Mrs. Potts, and then Cogsworth.
That's such a wide range of
Yeah, at that point, I was like, "Can I read for Gaston?" Like he's
Okay, so since your first entrance to musical theater was Beauty and the Beast, who's been your biggest musical theater influence, you would say?
I would have to say I definitely have a couple. Well, like he's not like an influence. He's like my crush. I'm like obsessed
Mhm.
with
Oh,
Boral.
no,
I
honestly, it's
love
so
him.
real.
Like I'll literally like I'll be the number one fan of anything he does. But like actual influences, I would have to say Stephanie J. Block is really up there.
Oh,
She's my girl. She's
my
my girl.
SJV.
SJB. Um she's probably like number 3. Number
Mhm.
2, I would have to say uh this is tough. Probably Lindsay Mendez. I have to go
Oh
with
yeah,
my
yeah.
girl,
I
Lindsay.
can see that. That totally, yeah.
Yeah. And then number 1, always and forever, Jessica Vosk. She can literally do no wrong in my eyes. Her
Mhm.
story of like starting out on like Wall Street and then just being like, what if I just like audition? And then like she did, and then she was like
Mhm.
amazing. Like, oh my God. I like fall asleep to like her bootleg. Like
And-
she sings me to sleep.
yes, and it's funny you say that because they're all alphabets. So,
Yeah. And it's funny because I can't sing Alphaba.
bro, you can't
No, I can't.
why not? I feel like you could.
It's out of my belting range.
Oh, no, it's okay. I can't play alphabet either, but that's because I'm not a girl. So,
Well, there was that part in theater camp where in the post credit scene they said that Noah Galvin played Alphaba.
oh, I would love to see that. So, okay, so you have two Zonies.
I do.
What were the two shows you got a Zony for?
The first show I got a Zony for was for Runaways, and it's always hard when people are like, "Well, who were you?" So
Hmm.
I wasn't anyone. So the concept of
I
Runaways,
wasn't.
I wasn't it. No,
I actually was not in the show. I just got the Zony.
I like I like teched a couple times, and then they were like, "Oh, here's um." So the concept of Runaways is that it's based off of interviews with like real runaway children, and they helped like write it and like
Oh.
develop it. And then they even got some like runaway children off the streets by casting them in the show. And so
Wait, at Spotlight?
no, this was like in 1978.
Oh, I thought you meant like, I was like, wow, that's like really cool.
No, in 1978 when Elizabeth Swados did this on Broadway. And so there's no like characters, like it's just like stories because there's no plot. But when we did it at Spotlight, we like distributed like parts, and I guess I just had enough material to be considered like a supporting actress. I won for supporting actress in a musical, and a lot of my Runaways co-stars were nominated. I know my friend Sophia was nominated with me, and then I like 3 of our guys were nominated. And so we were all super grateful for that, and I won, and it was literally crazy. My story about it is that the day of the Zonies, I got sick with 101 fever. And I had to perform actually that year for once, and I'm already like pretty mediocre at the violin, but then I had to like lock in because I was in front of people, but I was like shaking and I was sweating the whole time, and I was so uncomfortable, and I was convinced I wasn't gonna win. And so I wrote something down in my phone just so I could like not look like a fool if I did win, but I literally like I was like sitting back in my chair. I was like, I'm and then they said my name, and I was like, oh, I gotta go talk now. And nobody tells you how scary it is to like.
Is it scary?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it is so terrifying. Like when you get up there, like walking down, and like everyone's like looking at you, and it's so much different from like a performance, because like performing, I have a script I gotta follow, and that's what I do. Like when I was accepting the award, I was like, oh, it's all on me not to embarrass myself.
Yeah. So are you in like a room full of your peers? Is it like people like community theater actors? Like who's in the room?
It's a mix of like people who put on the shows, like producers behind the scenes I don't normally see, and a mix of like my peers. So it's like a bunch of like producers and designers who like sometimes the actors don't really see, and then also a mix of like my peers. I would say that the first year I went, the first year, I've been multiple years, but okay, so the first year I won, the second year I went, it was a lot more designers. This last year when I won for, I didn't answer the question, by the way, I forgot. I won for Lumière and Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
And this last year was a lot more of my peers and way more artistic people. I don't know what that means, but that's
I need to go. I want to go to Zoni. When are they? Are they in?
They're in October.
Okay, let me host the Zonies. Actually, I want.
Actually, go for it. The host every year, he like, no shade, no hate, but he's so boring.
Does he have an opening number? I want an opening number though.
No, but you should campaign for one.
I would. I should open it with "Welcome to the Zuckerman Barn." Welcome to the Zoni. Welcome to the Zonies
Awards. Welcome to the Zoni Awards. I would pay top dollar.
And then Thomas Kim as a special guest, of course.
Can Thomas Kim be like, can he hand out all the awards?
Oh, I would love that. So you didn't get the Zoni. Did you get nominated for SpongeBob?
I did. I did get nominated for
SpongeBob. You got nominated.
Yes.
And how was that? I heard you were phenomenal in that show. Like before I even knew you, I was like SpongeBob. I just did it, and I was going to see. I don't know. It was before we even follow each other. I heard about it. I was like, I want to see it, and then they were like, you know what? That Sandy's really. I actually did hear that from like I don't even know, like some random people are like, oh, the Sandy's like amazing. I'm like, okay, I have to go see, but I did not see. So, so like, how did SpongeBob fall into your lap? Like, how did you hear about SpongeBob?
Yeah. Okay. So SpongeBob was the most fun I think I've ever had, like doing a show. And so SpongeBob, I found SpongeBob like pretty soon after the cast list release. The cast album released. I have been obsessed with SpongeBob the musical since its like conception. Like which is so funny because I didn't really grow up on the cartoon. Like I watched it like here and there, but I wasn't
me too.
a SpongeBob fan.
Hmm.
But the musical, like, I don't know what it was. I just connected with it like instantly. And going into that season, I like followed Desert Stages, but I didn't really like, I'd never done anything there. I'd only seen shows there and I didn't
Yeah.
know the staff.
Hmm.
Um, so I had like no connections going in. And so what was interesting was when they released their season, I had like pretty much stayed at Spotlight my whole career. And but my dream show, like top 3 for sure, was always SpongeBob. So the second
Uh.
I saw it on their season, I was like, I'm going out for it. Like I was like terrified to branch out. I could literally get like the fish who's like, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Like I was literally going to be in the show one way or another.
No,
I was
real.
accepting anybody. And it is a 50-minute drive from my house. Like
Hmm.
gas ain't cheap these days. And I had my license at this point. So
Hmm.
like I was like, no, I am getting into SpongeBob. And so I auditioned and I got called back. And what's funny actually is that one of my dream roles of all time is SpongeBob. But
Hmm.
I accidentally, okay, I will literally never forget this. We were at callbacks and I was the person who read the most. I read for SpongeBob, I read for Patrick, I read for Sandy, I read for Plankton, I read for Karen, I read for Pearl,
Oh,
I read for Squidward. The only person I did not read for was Krabs. Um,
and that like kind of the nature when you audition that you're just called back for every single role because I feel like you're so low. You are just so like not even to glaze you, but you're just so versatile. Like you could literally be anything. Like so is that like the nature of like your callbacks? Like, oh, you could do this, like do this, do this, do this, do this.
um, not to glaze myself, but like kind of yeah. Like I very rarely have callbacks where I'm like called back and I can tell from like the room like, oh, this is the character I'm reading for.
Yeah.
I guess the only time that's ever happened was the Esmeralda callback where I was like, oh, I'm called back for Esmeralda, and then
Oh,
I didn't get it, but that's okay because
hmm.
Gianna Origi is perfection.
Queen.
But yeah, like VYT was kind of the first time where I got called back for something, and I was like, oh, this is like no,
Yeah.
I did audition for Spelling Bee at Starlight a couple years ago, and I was called back for
Hmm.
one character, and it was Logan, and she's the one who has the gay dads in the list.
Oh, I would have loved to seen you as that.
Didn't get in. Hashtag didn't get in. But yeah, that's okay. But oh yeah, so for SpongeBob, I vividly remember being like, okay, I want to be SpongeBob so bad. I need to nail this callback. We actually read Sandy first, and I remember I did my Sandy callback, and I vividly thought that was too good. That was too good of a
Yeah.
callback, and I locked myself in as Sandy because like I did it, and the whole table was like, "Wow!" And I was like, "No!" And so I did that. My SpongeBob callback was like fine, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get Sandy." And which any other person that like that's how ungrateful I sound, and I know it. Like any other person would be like, "Oh my god, like I think I have a really good shot at." And I went home and I was like, "Oh my god, I got Sandy."
Yeah.
Um, and
That
so
SpongeBob was so hard for me because I had a similar experience to you. I saw it, like, I even, first of all, shout out Morgan Macy, or did I say like Massey? Macy?
Massey.
Massey. I didn't know what community theater was until she was in Heather's. And it went on my TikTok page, and I was like, wait, you could do theater outside of school? And I was like, wait, this is my world has been
I saw her in
altered. Ush, queen. And then someone gave me like a frozen, it's like on my wall. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like there. Someone gave me a frozen playbill. I'm looking through the playbill. I'm like, auditions for SpongeBob the Musical at Valley Youth Theater. Gonna have to turn up for that. So I literally like waited like a whole like 6 months. Like I knew like oh it was in April. I was like I'm literally waiting until April to audition for this show. And then I swear every single boy in Phoenix was there. There was so many guys, and literally callbacks were like they had like 80 rounds of callback. They're like, okay, if you could dance, come in. If you could tap, come in. If you can ride the skateboard, come in. If you can do a special trick, come in. And me, who didn't do any of those things, I was like, I'm not booking this show. I literally cannot be anything in this show. Got a call back for like ensemble, and I sang BFF, but it was so random because there were so many guys. They just literally had to sing like probably 8 bars of BFF. Like I'm not even joking. And they were like, you sing, you sing, you. I'm like, what is going on? So I was really scared, but ultimately it worked out. And SpongeBob is just such a fun show.
Absolutely. I would do SpongeBob 1,000 times over, no matter who I got. Like I would be Sandy again, or I would be like anybody in it. Like I
Mhm.
truly, that was so much fun, and it was
Yeah.
such a unique experience too, because it was actually a double cast show, but I wasn't double cast.
Were you the
I
only one?
I was the only Sandy. But I had
Oh,
two SpongeBobs, two Patricks, two Pearls, two Karens, two Squidwards. The only people not double cast were me, the Perch Birkins, the crabs, and the plankton.
wow.
I was the
So,
only girl not double cast.
so how does I've been so curious of like how double casting works. Like how do you rehearse?
Yeah.
What does that entail?
Yeah. I've been on both ends of it because I'm actually grateful that like I have both experiences because Lumière, I was double casted with someone. And then Sandy, I wasn't. So in terms of like rehearsals, you they'll like pick a section for the day and
Hmm.
like per day they'll like determine who learns it first and who like watches. So like for example, like let's use like SpongeBob for example. Like if we were learning heroes our middle name, we would use our Bikini Bottom cast for that day, and then the Krusty Krab cast would like watch and then like kind of track it on the floor with like the SpongeBob and Patrick there would like watch what I was doing up there with the other two, and
Hmm.
then we would switch, do a quick like brief run through, and then like go full out. The next
Oh.
day, let's say we were running like Super Sea Star Savior, Krusty Krab Cat would learn it, and then Bikini Bottom cast would watch it. So it was a bunch of like switching to like keep it like all equal.
Mm.
And we had a lots of mixing and matching of cast because I mean, conflicts exist obviously.
Yeah.
And so like I did like a bunch of shows with like different Patricks and different SpongeBobs and different Squidwards and different Pearls. And so
Hmm.
that was a lot of fun. And for Beauty and the Beast, um, just by like mere circumstance, the show before Beauty and the Beast was Mean Girls, and my other cast, Brant, I love you, Brant. Um, he was Aaron Samuels, but he wasn't double casted in that one. So he
Hmm.
was there like all the time. So by mere circumstance, I got to be Lumiere like a lot. And so,
Mm.
but when he came, we did that thing of like switching off. And it is so essential. Like I cannot stress this enough how essential it is that you get along with your double. Like, not even just like tolerate each other, like truly respect one another.
Yeah.
Because I have seen doubles who see like each other as nothing but competition. And it just doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
it reflects in your performance, it reflects in your etiquette towards others, and especially that person. And like everybody can tell.
Yeah.
Like it is just so obvious when you do not respect your other double because it
Hmm.
shows in your performance because you kind of like perform as if you have something to prove instead of like
Yeah.
performing to perform.
Hmm.
So I cannot stress enough like how important it is that you and your double you need to do more than get along. You need to be like friends. And I'm very lucky to consider Brant my friend.
Yeah. I would be so scared to do a double cast because I feel like, especially for like SpongeBob, I feel like you have to be so connected. And I feel like if I did double cast, like I would feel so overstimulated. I'm like who is it hard to find like your grounding or your
Yeah.
is it hard to find like your thing with each Patrick and each SpongeBob, and then you find your thing with them, and then you're like, oh, wait, here's a whole new group of people.
Yeah. Um that is it's unfortunately true. Like I will not deny that I was closer with one of the cast than I was the other one. Specifically the SpongeBob and Patrick, and we're like talking about the SpongeBob and Patrick.
Yeah.
I was much closer with one of the SpongeBobs and Patricks than I was the other one. And it had nothing to do with them as like human beings.
Hmm.
It was just like that something just clicked with the other one. Like the cast I was closer with, my SpongeBob and Patrick were both guys. And
Yeah.
the other one, they were both, one of them was non-binary and one of them was a girl.
Hmm.
And so I was just much closer with the guys just by
Yeah.
like circumstance. Like we would like develop improv and we had like bits and we had like this like these like chemistry like things we would do.
Yeah.
Like one day in rehearsal, like in Best Day Ever, our Patrick like snuck up behind me and like grabbed me and like spin me around. It scared me so bad, but our director like loved it. And he was like, "No, keep it, but just like make sure she knows about it this time." And so like that was the thing we did. But like I will say that like it's hard when you're not the one who's double casted. So,
Hmm.
but you do need to find those moments with both casts because it's not fair to the audience because like
Yeah.
maybe this was the only day that like I had that experience when I go see other double casted shows where it's like I know people in both casts, but like this was the only day I could fit it in. So it's
Yeah.
like you need to find those things to connect with everyone because like it's not fair to the audience
Hmm.
watching if you
Yeah.
give like a tilted performance like per night. So it is
Yeah.
the thing that like you might have more chemistry with the cast, but it is
Hmm.
like imperative that you give the same quality of a performance on like a personal level.
Yeah. Also, I feel like no one talks about this enough. Like, Sandy is such a hard role. Like, you have to have some stamina for that. Like, you're literally like you come in the game, you're chopping, you're jumping up and down. I don't think she ever has like she's like one slight moment where she's like just chill for like, and that's in Tomorrow Is, and then Hero's my middle name. There are like two little moments where she's like chill and
Yeah.
grounded, but every time she's like and she's like here and then she's up and down and she's climbing things like that's almost like going neck to neck with SpongeBob with like
Yeah.
how hard it is.
I would say, well, okay. So funny story. I did this to myself.
Uh-huh.
I adore I'm Not a Loser. Like I love that song.
I
And
love
so
it.
and the double casted, one of the SpongeBobs didn't really want to do it. So I like begged our director. I was like, I will make the quick change. Like, let me be in I'm Not a Loser. And
No.
he was like, okay. So I was in I'm Not a Loser for one of the cast for the SpongeBob who didn't want to do it. So this was the play by play. I would I would have to be on stage the entire time for I Guess I Miss You because Sandy doesn't do anything. She just sits there and like listens. And then
Yeah.
she's like, "Come on, SpongeBob, we're almost at the top." And then like that's like it. And so we would finish that song. I would bolt it down the stairs,
Hmm.
strip all my clothes off, get all of my like sea anemone things on, and we had like
Hmm.
glitter vest, we had glitter pants, we had
Yes.
capsules, we had sock puppets, we had hats, we had glasses. And
Hmm.
so I would throw all of that on. I think I had 2.5 minutes to change, which seemed
What?
like a lot of time. But
No.
but then like when you're in the moment, you're like, wait, literally that was 30 seconds. And so I would go out there, I would do the song. I always had a blast. I love that song. And then I would run back. This time I had about a minute and a half to change. And so then I would strip all of that off, put all my Sandy back on, and then I would have to go back to the mirror and like reapply. My Sandy makeup plot was so much glitter. And
Hmm.
so when I was like changing, it would like kind of fly off. And so I would have to go back and put more glitter on my face.
Yeah.
One time I was literally in the middle of stepping out onto the stage and somebody grabbed my hair, pulled me back, and then they like stuck the Sandy hair clip because I forgot it. This day, I don't know who did that. I appreciate them a lot, but to this day, I have no idea who put my hair back. But yeah, but that was something I did to myself, and I really appreciated it. But to your point, yes, Sandy has to have a lot of stamina. Chop to the top. I was like genuinely every night. I was like, this is my last straw. I'm not going to make it, but I did somehow. I don't know how I did that, But yeah, super stamina filled role, but I'm super grateful for it. I love Sandy so much. I love
And
her.
it's funny you say that you got to do that change and be an I'm Not a Loser because I was supposed to be an I'm Not a Loser when I did SpongeBob and I was told I couldn't do it because I was in the scene before. But
Mhm.
I could have made that change. But honestly, I had like 10 costumes.
It's because of the electric skate scene. If that scene wasn't there and it went straight into the song, I would have never made it. But because the electric skates had that scene, I made it.
It's SpongeBob. Honestly, I kind of love like the thrill of like having no time to change. Like I was a sardine, and so after the sardine song, it goes right into like the mob, and then it's tomorrow is
Yeah.
tomorrow's. So literally after sardine, I'm like running backstage, like like two inhalers, and mind you, like the chain. I don't even know how we did this. Now that I think about it, I literally don't even know like I think in like 30 seconds. Because you could just tell who were sardines in the last one because they're all sweaty and just out of breath. And they're like, and then we had to be like, so like the sardine had like a pink shirt, a jacket, pink tights, pink disco pants. And then we had a beanie, the glasses, and we took that all off. I had to put on my bikini bottom outfit, run, try to find time to get a water, and then run to the other side to get on stage. And I'm like, like, and I'm literally so out of breath. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I literally did not think half the time we were going to make it. And people would be so slow. That's my biggest. I'm
Mm.
like, move out of my quick change, move. But honestly, I loved SpongeBob because of all the changes we
I
had.
love you guys' SpongeBob. I saw it. I loved it. I adored it.
Ah, so much fun. I think I was literally talking to this with Sandra, Gianna's mom.
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt like that show was such a representation of like what we just went through.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's like a giant that popped up on my screen. I was like, what is this? I'm like, what we just went through. And I'm like, what? Like, this is crazy. And I'm just like, with the whole pandemic, and this was like VYT's first big show coming back, and all about the show's all about like people just going crazy of like kind of like their version of a pandemic and then looking up to people and everyone's just turning on each other and ultimately we come at the end and say kumbaya. So I thought that was really special and really reflect the time period that we were going through.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of Zonies, what you should have gotten a Zoni for was your role in Merrily. Whoa. Here, you want to tell everyone what Merrily is about? Is it underground? I feel like it's kind of underground.
It's underground to anyone who like doesn't know like surface level theater.
Okay. Okay, tell everyone what Merrily is about
Okay. Well,
and your role.
yeah. I played Mary Flynn in Merrily We Roll Along, which was a Sondheim musical that came out in 1981. And it basically follows these three friends: Mary, who is a novelist, Charlie, who is a lyricist, and Frank, who is a composer. And the three of them are best friends. And it follows their friendship and how they slowly become like awful like sellouts and like lose the integrity they once had. But what makes
Hmm.
the story so fascinating is that it's told in reverse. So it starts with Charlie is no longer friends with Frank, Mary is an alcoholic, Frank is a Hollywood sellout, and it's told in reverse. So we go back and we see the decisions they made to get to that end result. And what it does to the audience is make you feel so like helpless, like you are actively watching someone, specifically
Mm,
Frank, he's the protagonist, make like the worst possible decisions in his life. And when watching it backwards, you can be like, oh, this is like the point where like he cheats on his wife, and this is the point where like he decides to make the movie, and this is the point where he's like, let's make the second musical. And
yeah.
so like, it makes the viewer feel like a helpless, like kind of an enabler of Frank, because like you
Hmm.
anything about it.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it so much. It is probably like my favorite role I've ever gotten to play. Like Mary
Hmm.
will stick with me for a long, long time. I love that girl to death.
We could tell. What was your favorite song to sing?
My favorite song to sing was probably actually it was Not a Day Goes By reprise, the wedding scene.
Yeah. Oh my. If you guys wanted to see a Tony Award performance, that was it right there. That performance. I was like, hold on, this is a little too real right now. This
That
is
is was my favorite to sing because I think that it is the prettiest song. Like Hazy, who played Beth, like when she sings it
yeah.
like alone, like I love when she sings that. And just to
Mhm.
even get to sing like a little bit of it is like a little treat for myself every night.
Yeah, it was so real watching this. And I was telling you guys, but I wouldn't tell everyone on here that for me it's always so hard when I see friends in shows. Like and I really see them, I don't really see like the character they're playing, but like seeing you, Andre and Shane in the roles, I was like, wow, those are like I really saw the characters. That's like really hard for me to see like characters rather than like my friends. And it was so great. So one of my question was, I feel like Mary is so different than any role you played. Like how
Yeah.
I feel like she was a little more like serious, if for
Yeah.
lack of better words. So like was that hard for you?
Yes. I see a lot of myself in Mary in terms of like, like the wanting to cling to like your best friends and not wanting to like adapt to change. And she's just so full of youth and light. And it really is heartbreaking, like looking at it from a big picture and seeing how like Mary, like it's hard. It's a challenge. Well, Stutter Island, Jesus Christ. It's difficult because when you play a character like Mary or Frank or Charlie, you start in such a dark place. Like I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you start off with like Merrily We Roll Along, which is like that prologue, but like
Mm-hmm.
the first like actual scene that Frank, you start like Mary starts like a fat, drunk, and finished alcoholic. Like she is like given up on she's on the brink of giving up on Frank, and she does in that scene. She's given up on her career, she's giving up on all of her ambitions that she once had. And that was hard for me because like especially as like a 17-year-old girl,
Mm-hmm.
I luckily haven't reached that part of my life yet, but I had to like draw from something. So I tried to like draw on moments in my career where I was like considering, or at least like on the brink of being like, maybe I'm not good enough to continue in this profession.
Yeah.
And so that's also hard because it's like the first thing you do when the show starts. Like there's an overture, there's the prologue, and then bam, you're like depressed and drunk.
Yeah.
And that was hard from an acting standpoint because you go from that, and then in the last scene, like Mary is like super youthful, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
and like they make a big deal in the script, and it's not so much conveyed on stage because like I don't know how much you can convey it, but in the script they make a big deal about how like Mary, like when Frank meets her, is like really pretty and like someone that like
Mm-hmm.
Frank like could desire. And our director really wanted to hammer like home the idea for everyone watching. Mary is like one of her like defining characteristics is that
Mm-hmm.
like her entire life she's in love with her best friend Frank. Um
Mm-hmm.
and our director really wanted to hammer to the audience that in that last scene, which is actually the beginning, Frank kind of does take an interest in Mary romantically for like
Yeah.
a little bit. Like he wanted
Mm-hmm.
that chemistry to be there. It's
Yeah.
really opening doors where it's like the friendship is like cementing.
Ha, opening doors. Get it? Because you say it in the show. Wait, that's the song name, Opening Doors.
Yeah, it is.
I see what you did there. That was really good. So like did you know the show before you played the role? Like how well did you know it before?
Yes, I did. Sorry, Mom, what do you want? Oh, okay, then I don't need it. Okay, bye. Sorry, my mom was asking.
I honestly think we should leave that in there.
You can't. You can get the raw footage of my mom asking about how poor I am. Um, working actress. No, I did know the show because I'm like a big Sondheim freak, as many of my peers are. But I will admit that I didn't know it as well until the revival that just happened
Mm,
with Jonathan Groff, Lindsay Mendez, and Daniel Radcliffe.
yeah.
And the album for that dropped last year. I
Hmm.
listened to it and I was like, this is good. And
Yeah.
so I listened to it, and I actually, the reason my school did it is because me and my friends went around campaigning for it.
Hmm.
Because our director doesn't start the year knowing what show we're going to do. He picks it around November, and then he announces it in, sorry, he picks it in October, announces it in November.
Hmm.
Um, so we were like kind of going around campaigning for it just because we knew like we had like a really good group of people for it.
Yeah.
In terms of like the three and then the additional three and like Joe,
Hmm.
Beth, and Gussie.
Yeah.
So we were campaigning for it. So I did know the show going into it, but I didn't really know it until last year. And then obviously I really know it now, having
Yeah.
been.
So like, did you kind of, so did you come into rehearsals like, I know what I'm gonna do, I know what I want to play this role as, or did you like kind of like learn it for yourself like in rehearsals? If that
I
makes
think,
any
no,
sense.
yeah. I
Okay.
think it was a mix of both. I knew that I had moments personally where I was like, Mary feels this in this moment, and nobody's going to change how I think about that. But
Yeah.
like any moment where I was like, oh, let's see how Shane does this thing, because how Shane
Mm-hmm.
does this thing is how Charlie is going to do it, and how Charlie does is how Mary's
Mm-hmm.
going to react to it. Or like, especially all of my moments with like Andre, where I'm supposed to be like love sick in love with him. I was like, okay, I need to see what Andre is doing to like bounce off of that so that I can play like
Yeah.
in love.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest one was hating Gussie, because the girl who played Gussie, Ava Loren, she's one of my really good friends. And that character is just so hateable. And like reading this, I was like, oh my God, I've literally like not disliked someone this much in a long time. And then
Promises,
when Ava was doing
promises.
it, in the back of my head, promises, promises. In the back of my head, I was like, oh, well, this is my friend Ava. But you have to like overcome that and be like, no, this is Gussie Carnegie, who was a bad person.
Mm-hmm. I feel like no one got laughed as loud harder than at the promises, promises than me. I thought that was like the funniest point of the show, and I actually quote that every single day. I'm like, "Ah, what's his promises?" Okay, for anyone who doesn't know Merrily, what is the line that Gussie says? She's like,
Okay, so Gussie insults Frank's old apartment, and then Mary's like, "Oh, I decorated his old apartment," because she like basically
mm,
calls it ugly. And Gussie is like, "Oh, I'm going to call the general surgeon and have him cut out my tongue." And then Mary goes, "Oh, promises, promises."
I thought it was so funny. I'm like, why is no one listening? Like, you were
I
just so
think
funny over
you
that whole
alone,
show.
I think, made the line 10 times funnier. I was like, wow, at least someone appreciated my joke. Jesus.
So, what? Okay, so last question about Merrily.
Mhm.
What was the most rewarding aspect and what was the most challenging aspect of doing this show?
The most rewarding was probably, I was really confident in our time. So I don't know if anyone's ever had a moment like this, but like by the time opening doors was finished, I was mentally like, I did it, because I was so
Hmm.
confident in the scene of our time, and I was so confident in like the song our time,
Hmm.
that like opening doors was my last really like challenging thing. And it was like probably the most challenging thing. Like, fun fact for everyone listening, I messed up opening doors on opening night, like the words, and I went backstage and I cried so hard I threw up.
No.
Really hard on myself like that. But that's okay, because we persevered and we finished the show. But
Yes.
the most rewarding like part was doing our time, because I
Mm,
was so confident and certain in myself in that song and in Andre and Shane, that like
hmm.
by the time we got to that point, I was like, I'm here with my friends and my co-stars and everyone, and we are soaking in the moment. And I
Yeah.
could see people in the audience like smiling, because I was like
Hmm.
sure of myself, so I could like kind of let my
Yeah.
guard down a little bit. So
Hmm.
that was rewarding. The most challenging was, I took on a lot in the show behind the
Hmm.
scenes. I was
Yeah.
basically the assistant director. We had a lot of press shoots, which I directed and took most of the photos of.
Hmm. And they were
Um,
beautiful. They were so good. I want one of them framed in my room actually.
I'll get that
I
for
think I
you.
want the one where we had like the lady on the piano. I love that one. I'll
Yep,
put that somewhere in the world.
I got you. Um, but that was really difficult, and I picked out almost every single one of my own costumes. I had to buy them, and
Hmm.
I had to help the boys find theirs, and I had to do a bunch of prop hunting and like furniture shopping, and I just took on a
Yeah.
lot, and it was starting to get a little too much like towards the end, but I was like,
Hmm.
no, this is for like the betterment of like everybody, like this is really going to pay off. And I guess that's another rewarding part of it was like sitting back at the end of the day, like doing the show, which was like hard for me personally, but like sitting back and looking around and being like, oh my god, like we're doing it, it's off my shoulders in that regard. So like everything leading up to it was probably the most challenging part, and doing it was probably like the easiest bit.
It's funny how that always turns out that way. But like, I think it's so funny. Like, I think sh- did Shane change costumes? I feel like Shane and Andre had one costume and they were like coats, so they took on and off, and then like you were changing like every.
Jane had two different sweater vests and then like coats and stuff. And then Andre, he made me mad because he was complaining about his changes, and Hazy and I were like, "Can you be so for real right now?" He had
You were changing. You were like
no.
full outfit,
Um,
jewelry, necklace.
Act one, he had a mint green top, and then Act two, he had a white top.
I didn't even notice. I thought
Exactly. Exactly.
I honestly I think I did notice. I was like, wow, Olivia's changing so much. I like it was like I was like, wow, this and you looked stunning. I think my favorite costume was the brown one with the boots. That was super cute. No, the black one. I
Yeah,
remember
I was
you
like,
strutted
the black dress.
the strutted when you strutted on, I was like, oh, who is this diva? This is here we go. Merrily Roll Along. I was like, yes,
Thank you. Thank you.
that was so much fun. Okay, so now I have a few career questions. So has there ever been like a project that just made you disappointed because either it just didn't happen for you or things just didn't align, like something of that nature?
Yeah. I would have to say, in terms of like things that didn't align, actually SpongeBob at VYT, because I was really considering like going out for it, but I was doing something
Hmm.
else at the time that I would have had way too many conflicts. Um,
Yeah.
like leading up to it. So that was something that didn't
Hmm.
align, that kind of disappointed me. But I mean, like, I'm no stranger to like not getting into things. Like,
Yeah.
I like not to like glaze myself in any way, but I feel like people think because I have the Zoni noms, and then I have the wins, and then I have like the
Yeah.
resume, that they're like, oh well, like what do you know about like rejection?
Hmm.
I have been rejected probably equally as many times as I have been like accepted into things.
Yeah.
I have really hard rejections. The first
Mm.
show I ever actually auditioned for, I didn't get in. It was Into the Woods Junior. Um,
And
and
you should have been the witch. So I.
I was actually gonna get Little Red. It was a whole thing. Should I tell that story? It's like a stupid story.
You did. You told.
I'll tell the viewers the story. I went into that callback and I dominated the Little Red callback. And I went up to, and at the time, for the first like 8 years of my life, I played competitive
Hmm.
soccer. And I went up to the director and I told her I couldn't make weekends. And she was like, well, like, what do you like every weekend? And I was like, yeah, and Wednesdays and sometimes Thursdays. And like an idiot would. And then I didn't get it. And then years down the line, I was talking to that same director in a completely different show. And we brought up Into the Woods, and I was like, yeah, I don't know why I said that. And she goes, yeah, I don't know why you said that either. You were literally going to get Little Red Riding Hood, and then you said that, and then we couldn't cast you as her anymore.
Uh.
Because I told them I only had 3 conflicts, and then I said that.
So you
So
actually meant like 3 days a week, like oh yeah, like,
so when I said 3 conflicts, I meant like 3 consecutive weeks I have conflicts. No. So the first show I ever got into, I didn't I ever auditioned for, I didn't get into.
Mhm.
And so I think that the shows that I didn't get into, sometimes they sting more than the shows that were like really rewarding that I
Yeah.
did get into. Like I have done shows where I have gotten into them and I had a great time doing them. But
Hmm.
like in hindsight, it I think about the ones where I like messed up my callback or I had too many
Yeah.
conflicts or there was
Hmm.
another reason. I think about those sometimes more than shows I like actually did.
Hmm. You know what's crazy? This has been my case. My worst auditions and worst callbacks are just happens to be shows that I book, and then my best ones are just like
Yeah.
just didn't work out. It's funny how that how it all plays out. And if you want to talk about rejection, let's talk about the college musical theater process.
Yeah, let's.
Let actually don't
Let's.
talk about that. Actually don't. That is
Yeah, no, let's be
holding
candid. Let's be
space
real.
for all applicants because that I don't
It's
know. You know, speaking of the difficulty with that, I want you to pick one moment in your life and what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself.
I would probably have to pick me last year in April because I was really down on myself because I had just not booked a show. Well, let me set the record straight. I got offered ensemble and I declined. Let me say that.
Hmm.
Because I was only accepting certain parts. And I was really down on myself. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. Like, I'm never going to make it in this industry.
Hmm.
And if I could go back and tell that Olivia something, I would be like, girl, relax. I know this is hard because all of your friends just got into this show and you thought you were going to get it, but like it is going to get so much better because then I went on and I did Beauty and the Beast and hashtag got my Zoni and then afterwards I literally did what I can say without a doubt was the best show I've ever done in my life, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Shout out.
Yes.
And
Shout out.
then after that, I faced another rough patch in like late August, early September. And I would give that Olivia the same exact advice like, keep going. It is going to
Hmm.
get better. Like
Yeah.
every single point in my life, I would just tell myself to keep going. Like it is going to get better and it's going to suck. And like, if I could give this advice to me or to like anyone else, I would say I am not going to deny that there are parts where it's going to suck. Like there are
Yes.
parts where you're going to want to give
Hmm.
up and there are parts where you're going to want to tear your hair out and it's
Yeah.
frustrating and you're really going to doubt yourself.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, like it is so worth it when you keep going and you book that show or you have that experience or you make those friends and like my advice is like keep going, like push through, persevere. And I know that's like kind of cliche, but it really is like the best advice I could give is
Hmm.
to push through, keep going, and persevere. Like I would tell that to
Yeah.
myself like now. Like right now I'm actually like kind of good, but like in terms of like college, I'm like keep going.
Yeah.
Like I would tell myself or anyone to keep going.
Mhm. Yeah, I someone told me this last year to really change my perspective on like auditioning and just theater period. And and this may come out wrong. I hopefully I say it correctly, but it's like every yes is a no to something, and every no is a yes to something
Yeah,
else.
that's put that on a quote book.
It was like, wow. I was like, wait, so when I get a no in this show, that means I have an opportunity, I have more opportunities to do something else, and then like just different opportunities come my way. And but there will also be those times where like, oh, I'm already doing something and I have to turn down shows or auditions and stuff like that. And I don't know. I really loved. I wonder who said that to me. They really impacted me that way. I was like, wow, that felt so good. And during that time, I had just someone they told me that, and I just got um I just didn't get a part in Snoopy at BYT.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, that cast was phenomenal, but that was kind of hard. I was like, wow, like I wonder, like, what did I do wrong? Like, what I need to work on? And it's kind of just feeling down just after doing Peter Starcatcher that the most insane imposter syndrome. I was like, what the heck is going on? And I was just really feeling down, like, wow, that like really changed my outlook on auditioning, period. But time for our closing statement. If
Yeah.
you could play any role, regardless of gender, age, or anything, what would it be and why?
Let me pull up my notes app.
Oh, she has a notes app. You already.
We got a notes
Well,
app.
you pull out your notes app. I hope everyone knows my dream role is to be the ribbon twirler in One Short Day.
I literally
And
told
Wicked.
my mom that when we were seeing Wicked, it was intermission, and I turned to her and I went, "Did you know that Jayvin's dream role is ribbon twirler in One Short Day?" She was like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "I'm being so for real right now."
Number one. Like I wait, I did get his autograph. I got his autograph when I saw it at Canada.
Okay, I have my top 3.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, 2 of these I need to be older. One of them I should probably be older, but I could see a youth production of it. Um,
Okay.
one of them is Trenna in Falsettos because it's my favorite show.
Yes, please.
One of them is Mama Rose and Gypsy. And then the other one is Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm actually there for all of these.
Thank
All
you.
right, this has been so much fun and chat with you later. Bye. Wait. Where can everyone find you? Tell them your handles.
Society can find me on Instagram at Ollie Oxen. And if you ever see any platform that has a user named Ollie Oxen, it is probably me.
All the accent is directed to Olivia Martinez. All right, thank you so much for chatting with me, Olivia Martinez.
Yes, of course.